Fired. And at this time, I would recognize the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair. Earlier, somebody was positing what sets us apart as a country, and I would suggest that it is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and the constitutional framework that protects that. Quick question for you, Ms. Foster. A lot has been made about the implications with respect to race on the Roe opinion and what may come down this summer. Would you agree that if you look at the most recent data, 38% of abortions affect black babies?
Tragically, yes.
21% affect Hispanic babies?
Yes.
A lot of numbers have been raised about, or a lot of questions and issues have been raised about rape and incest. And in fact, you had an exchange with my colleague from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, about whether or not he would accept limits on abortion if there was, in fact, an exception for rape and incest. Can you clarify for the record, the Guttmacher Institute is a arm of Planned Parenthood, correct?
Yes, founded as the research arm of Planned Parenthood.
And according to data that I have, less than 1% of abortions are connected to rape, less than 0.5% are connected to incest, according to Guttmacher. Does that line up with your understanding?
According to the Guttmacher Institute, data suggests that most women seeking later terminations are not doing so for reasons of fetal anomaly or life endangerment. That's a quote. In fact, it's the same top reasons as first trimester abortions, which are financial hardship, relationship issues, and not feeling ready to be a parent, which are all issues where we as a caring nation and as loving communities can come alongside the woman.
And so I think it merits conversation that, again, to your point, yes or no, do you believe that your answer was the answer from Mr. Raskin, would it be a yes or a no? It would be no, correct?
It would be no.
It would not accept limits on abortion, even if you exempted the 1.5% that fall into that category. Ms. Arambidi, just real quick, you made a couple of points, I think, during your testimony about Texas. Not being a particularly hospitable place, generally, or with respect to women as it relates to abortion. And made a point, I think, about lack of care provided for women. Is it correct? I have information here correct. I believe that says that there are 8.5 pro-pregnancy and pregnancy counseling centers for every one abortion clinic in the state of Texas, that the legislature in passing SB 8 appropriated $100 million for women's health care. I guess my question here is in light of that, and in light of Texas being an inhospitable place, according to your testimony, are you aware of how many people have moved to the state of Texas in the last decade? Do you know what that number is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say that the clinics that you're referring to are fake
4 million.
clinics, and they don't actually provide
4 million
medical
people have
services.
moved to the state of Texas in the last decade. That's the population of the entire state of Alabama have moved to the state of Texas by choice in the last decade. I would move to one other question here. Ms. Robinson.
Could I finish my answer, though, about Texas?
I didn't ask you a question about that. Ms. Robinson, I would ask you a question. When is the latest that you have performed an abortion in terms of weeks of the unborn child?
Yes, my name is Dr. Robinson, and I provide abortion care in Alabama. So Alabama has
What is the answer to the question, the latest that you have performed an abortion?
I'm going to answer your question. So unfortunately,
number,
my
weeks.
state is one of those states that has passed restrictions or bans on abortion care, which limits physicians like myself from
And therefore,
caring for
in other words, you would like to do it
despite
later.
their
What is the
pregnancy
latest you have
continuing.
performed an abortion?
So since I will always follow the law and I live in the state of Alabama, I provide abortion care up until 20 weeks gestational age.
Okay, so you performed an abortion at 20 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And the procedure for an abortion, when we're talking about at 20 weeks, as I understand it, is dilation and extraction. Have you performed abortions at that stage? And in doing so, have you had baby parts that you've had to discard or store in some capacity?
One of the things that you all have done
Legs, arms,
throughout
eyes.
this hearing is just use inflammatory language.
It's a question. Ma'am, it's a simple question. Have you had human parts, baby parts, arms, legs as a result of an abortion performed at the time you just acknowledged you
I
performed
am a
abortions up to
physician
20
and a
weeks.
proud abortion provider. There is nothing that you can say
Yes
that
or no?
makes it difficult
Have-
for me
ma'am?
to talk about the care that I provide
Right.
to
So
my
have there been
patients.
baby parts, yes or no?
If you would like for me to talk to
And
you
where
about
and how
we
have they been
perform an
stored?
abortion for patients who need care
So the answer to the
at
question is
20
fairly
weeks
obvious,
gestational age, I'm happy
that
to
there are baby parts, and you don't want to talk about how they're being stored. You don't want to talk about putting them in freezers. You don't want to talk about putting them in Pyrex dishes. You want to talk about the videos that we have from Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast in Houston, Texas. You don't want to talk about the reality
The
of
gentleman's
what actually
time
happened.
has expired.
If you don't mind me answering, all of those things that you just mentioned, I have never seen that in a healthcare setting ever. We don't put baby parts in freezers or Pyrex dishes. I've never seen a patient
Well, I asked
the
where you put them.
hospital stop by and
Time
decide
has
she wants to
expired.
terminate.
Well, then where do they go?
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
The chair